Hi, it's David Rowe from Rowe Chiropractic Offices, and I'm here with Russ, and Russ has graciously agreed to tell us about his very interesting, unique, and I think helpful story. So, Russ, you've been a patient of the office for a long period of time.
3 decades, I was counting.
Over
3 decades.
Fantastic. And you originally were my brother Stephen's patient.
Correct.
And then I wrestled you away from him when he had to stop working because of his shoulder.
Totally, and the funny story is I didn't want to see you, right? Yeah, but grew to love you.
That's great. And we've taken care of other family members, so speak a little bit about that if you would.
Well, it's interesting because I started going to Rowe Chiropractic about a year before I met my wife and then got married, and she was not very pro chiropractic, but we were on our honeymoon and we were scuba diving, and she got flooded in her face mask and she was underwater and she's with an instructor and he was holding her down as she was trying to go to the top, and she totally massively messed up her neck. And that's why she started going, actually. She did not believe in it at all, but then she became a convert. So, and then we, continued to go to chiropractic and our little kids,
So tell me about the kids.
Yeah, so when they were born, like Adriana, my first daughter, I think we adjusted her like around 6 months or so, and there's a picture of her in your office, and the same with my son.
What an advantage it is to get adjusted from that age and then throughout a lifetime.
It'd be really nice, right?
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Great. So, and now we've worked together, we've had different, issues that we've worked on, but a lot of the focus has been spinal correction, taking care of your spine as a lifestyle to keep yourself just as healthy as possible. Good. So just kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just a real big believer in chiropractic and what it does, and I think it's really important for you to do your part. Is go regularly.
You got to show up, right?
You got to show up, and then also do your exercises and things like that. And I do, like, if I don't go, which I have done before. I've had little gaps and stuff, but like it ends up catching up with you, and you kind of like get out of adjustment, and you actually set yourself up for problems sometimes. So I don't know if you remember, like during COVID.
I remember everything.
Several years ago, like I had not been going very much, and my back started really hurting, and it really started hurting really bad. And so even though it was COVID lockdown, I came to see you. So. And
your wife had some severe health issues, so you're masked up, getting adjusted in Westchester. Although we weren't really generally using masks, but we're like under these circumstances, understandable. And
but you were antiseptic things.
Yeah, you know what we were using? Acid water.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you've created as a lifestyle in terms of keeping yourself healthy and wealthy, right? Healthy and well, and you've participated on your own, and generally the results have been amazing, right? Yeah, we've worked on spinal reconstruction, posture correction. Now, tell me the story that happened just a couple of weeks ago. Now, you're 30 years into care, so you think about we've got this utopian thing that, his spine must be perfect. Well, we know that that's not true. Life has its bumps and bruises, and we put stress on ourselves, and we know that subluxation, these misalignments, are caused by stress. Right. So tell me what happened a couple of weeks ago.
So, it was actually really horrific. Like I went out to a fundraiser the night before, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I live alone and I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, and I just remember waking up suddenly and the entire room was spinning. I mean, it was like just and kind of in slow motion. I kind of go over here and I go do, and then I go over here and go do. It freaked me out. I was so terrified because I had no idea what was happening.
Never had an experience like
Nothing,
this before.
Just out of the blue.
And
I couldn't stand up.
And what was your worst fear? What did you think? Maybe
stroke.
So you're thinking it's the middle of the night. You wake up, you get these terrible symptoms, and you're thinking, "Oh, geez, I'm having a stroke."
And partially because some friends of mine recently had a stroke, and it's really impacted their lives really awfully. And I know kind of symptoms of stroke, and so and there are some related. Anyway, but I really didn't think so. And it's funny because another friend recently had vertigo, and I thought, oh, that's so weird. Like, that's a weird thing to have. But I kind of knew, I thought it might be vertigo too. So anyway, it was like being in a horror movie. It was terrifying. But it stopped.
So it got really bad, and then it
for a couple minutes,
yep.
and then it was in the middle of the night, and again, just my dog and me, and so I was kind of walking around. I had trouble walking a little bit, and still,
that you felt wobbly.
I was testing myself, and then if I turned like this or made certain head things, it would kind of go whoop, whoop again. I feel like movement, and so I go, I think I'm gonna play it safe and go to the emergency room, just because, like, if it was a stroke, I just don't want to be at home. So I did go to the emergency room.
You called an ambulance?
I called an ambulance.
So you're feeling like this is no joke here. Something's really going on. Yeah. So you call the ambulance.
Totally.
Ambulance comes and gets you, and they bring you to the emergency room. Before we talk about the emergency room visit, did anything happen prior to this experience where you thought you might have traumatized yourself, where you might have injured yourself? Anything like, did you move your head fast, or did you jerk yourself in some way?
You mean prior to that night?
Yeah.
I do remember, and I think I told you.
I'm pondering this because you told me this.
Yeah, I forgot.
I forgot that one.
There was, that week, somewhere around there, I was in the kitchen, and two things happened simultaneously. A dish was falling off, and something else was happening on both sides, and so I whipped my head back and forth really quickly, and I thought at the time, like, oh, that's not good. That I probably shouldn't have done that, but I didn't really feel anything.
Yeah, so there's no symptoms then.
Yeah, but that did happen a few days before.
Okay.
So
now we're in the emergency room, and they start doing examinations. They start checking you out.
Right.
And what kind of exams did they do?
So right off the top, they didn't think it was a stroke, so that was good. They were just trying to rule it out, but they just kind of, they were just checking me out, doing EKGs. They did a CAT scan.
So they don't think it's a stroke, but they're still saying, we're going to do a CAT scan.
So they want to rule it out, and they were doing neurological kind of tests and things like that. And again, it was at that point, the huge symptoms were gone, right? It was still just a little movement. And, but they basically said, we think it's vertigo, which is great, versus a stroke.
Yes.
And they gave me a medicine called Midtown, which was awful, and just made me sleep. But they had me go home.
So even though the symptoms had gone down, you're in the emergency room, they're feeling inclined, they got to do something for you.
Right.
So they give you a pharmaceutical.
Right.
And so you take it there, you go home, and how did this pharmaceutical make you feel?
So it's interesting because I was the final day of doing my bathroom renovations, and the contractor was there. He had to be there. It was all scheduled, and so I literally slept the whole day until he would wake me up and say, "Where do you want to put the
towel rack?"
The towel, exactly, the towel rack. So, but otherwise I was like conked out, and I just didn't feel good. But it was mostly the drug, I think.
Okay, so listen, it's a traumatic experience. It's the emergency room. There's also a pharmaceutical. So there's a lot of pieces going on.
Right.
Okay, great. So then, what clicks in your mind? Hey, maybe let me call Dr. David.
Well, almost immediately, before I went to the ER. I don't know if I told you this. I tried doing my neck adjustments because I thought maybe something was wrong. Yeah, to see if something might happen. But I had planned to see you because that was on an early Friday morning, and so I planned to see you, and I came in on Saturday. So that was part of the plan.
Yes.
So
that Saturday, that next day, you call me up and you come in and we do an exam.
Correct. And I was still feeling, especially when I would make certain movements, when I would lie down, it would be like you're on a boat. After you've been on a boat, you come back on land and things are moving. That's how it felt. I would make these movements and it felt like everything was moving. And that's what was happening when I came to you on Saturday.
So you come in, we do an examination. Now we already have prior x-rays, and we've got several sets of x-rays, and I have photographic studies of you because you've been a long-term patient. So we've established a well-documented baseline of what your spinal problems are and how they've improved. But if you fall into pattern, we know what your pattern is. So we do an examination, and I'll just kind of speak to this part. So I find that in your normal pattern of subluxation, your misalignment, you've got a particular direction of misalignment, and you are full in pattern. And I press on that upper cervical, and you're like, oh my God, wow, what's that? You don't even necessarily feel it until I stick my finger in there. You're like, oh my God, that's not right.
Yep.
So what I felt is from the exam is that you're misaligned, you're stuck. So the vertebra is actually fixated. The body is partially fixated because when the vertebra misaligns, it swells, so there's extra fluid in the joint. And so just like if you jammed a finger or twisted a knee, that inflammation doesn't let the joint move correctly. The body's also protecting it, so it tightens up the muscles, and so it's misaligned, stuck, swollen. I run the Gonstead instrument on it, and we see this nerve pressure.
Yeah, and at the top and everything. Yeah, it was
It
amazing.
is the top. It is actually your atlas, which is the top vertebra.
You press a couple different points in my neck that were really painful, and I didn't know that.
So then we adjust you, and then we had you walk around for a little while, and came back in, we adjusted you again. What was the response to the first adjustment?
Honestly, I felt better, like right away. I really honestly did. I felt, the best way to describe it is, I kind of felt brain foggy too, and I just felt clearer.
And you felt brain foggy prior to the adjustment. We adjusted.
And I just felt like
the veil comes
something was better. And then really, like if I'm pretty much over the next day or so, those little movement feelings went away. It was like, so anyway, I came back on Sunday.
Yes, we said, even though you're feeling better, we're going to check you the next day.
Right.
This is enough of a trauma to your system, and that subluxation is stuck enough that we're going to check you the next day. Now, we run the instrument on it, it looks better, the motion's some better, but it's definitely there's still pressure there.
Right.
So I adjust it again, I have you walk around, you come back in, I do some posture work with you, and then as the week goes on, how do you do?
Yeah, and that I kind of put it into little phases and stuff like that. And after that weekend, that moving kind of sensation kind of stopped, right? And then what happened was I would feel a little off balance once in a while, or a little off kilter, like if I put my head down or do some kind of I would feel a little bit off balance, and I would feel that off and on during the course of that week, right? But I wasn't complaining, it was
so much better.
I just felt like it was in the process of improving.
Yeah. So then the next weekend, we see you 2 other visits, we adjust you again, we do therapeutic exercises, and each time we're checking you, you're coming back into your corrected, position. Now as stress is coming off. It's 2 weeks later. It was 2 weeks ago today.
Right.
Right. And it's kind of there's a lot happened that time. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel like I'm back to normal. As of last weekend, I feel like I'm back to normal. I feel like I've been normal this whole week. And it's so great. Because this is just an awful feeling to be if you are a person who likes to be in control or something,
which is most of us.
Yes. It's a very disorienting, uncomfortable feeling to be off balance and to be spinning.
And from my standpoint, one of the important things is because you lay down such a foundation of long-term care, that you've done a lot of the work. It's not to say that you're never going to have a trauma, you're never going to have a crisis, you're never going to have something that you're going to have to deal with. But because we've worked on your spine so much that we can pull you out of such a substantial flare-up relatively rapidly, and now you're cruising along again. Stuff happens, but because you've done the work, I think that's really the big point. And the more that we take responsibility and say, I'm going to care for my spine, whether I'm symptomatic or not, so that my brain can talk to my body and I can be as healthy as possible, that's really what sets the foundation that allows us to get you over this. Thank you so much for participating in this. I really appreciate it.